Man, it is so weird riding this bike compared to all the other bikes that I've been riding. Like on Friday I rode the Grom up to the rock store, and then on Saturday I actually went up there really late and I made that run on the Beta. Yesterday I went up there on the SuperDuke, and now this morning I am going out there on the RC8. And it is weird riding this bike because I've been riding so many uprights. It's been a long time. It's probably been like way over a month since I've rode this bike, since I have rode the sport bike position. And it is definitely weird, man. It is definitely something to get used to, that's for sure. What's up, guys? Got Dave here, and there's been quite a few people who have like seen my new bike, and they've asked me, you know, like, what is that thing, you know? And I'll just be like, well, it's basically like an upright version of the RC8. You know, it's basically like the RC8 V-twin, freaking high performance sport bike, whatever, but it's an upright sitting position. You know, and that makes it easy for them to understand, and it makes the bike make sense because everyone knows what my RC8 is, so they're just like, oh, okay, so it's like badass, but it's just like a little bit better position, you know, you're not like hunched over or whatever. And but there's so much more to that I wanted to touch on right now in this video. I already made a video about that where I was on the SuperDuke, and I was talking about the differences that I feel between that bike and this bike, and how that bike is basically like a street bike and this bike is basically a race bike. And I really feel that way still, but it had actually been a while since I had rode this bike when I made that video. I was comparing them kind of like they were similar except for this and this and this, you know, but it's like, no, they're basically like completely different, dude. Totally different. Because the RC8 compared to this bike is fully a race bike. It's a big difference, and there are many things on that bike compared to this bike that are specific to like track use or race use or whatever. The first thing is the damper, the steering dampener. On the RC8, it's on the top, like it's like right here on the top, and it is adjustable. This bike does have a steering dampener, but it's underneath, like on the bottom side of the fork rather than the top side of the fork here, and it's not adjustable. It's just one dampening setting. Another thing is the front forks. Like the front forks on the RC8, they have compression and rebound dampening, and you could totally adjust it all, you know, like however you want. And each fork, like you adjust like the one thing on the one fork and the same thing on the other fork, because they're both individually adjustable, and you have to do them the same, you know, you have to keep them balanced. Where this fork, the way that this bike is set up, the right leg has a red knob, and that is for rebound dampening, and the left leg has a white knob, and that is for compression dampening. So it's like one leg does one thing and the other leg does the other thing. Totally not race. You know, that's not how a race bike is set up. The suspension, like how stiff it is and how little travel there is on this bike. This bike is super rough, dude. This bike is very non-compliant. And the SuperDuke is really plush. You know, it's like really a comfortable bike to ride. It doesn't try to like shake your teeth out through the rough sections like this bike does. And not only is the riding position different, you know, like this crotch rocket freaking hunched over clip-on bars position versus the upright position of the SuperDuke. That is like totally different, and it makes the two bikes feel like two completely different bikes. But not only that, the RC8 here, it honestly, like, since I've been riding the SuperDuke so much and then hopping on this bike feels like it's got about a foot less wheelbase. Like it's way shorter, and it feels like it is way lower to the ground, and it feels like it weighs about 100 pounds less than the SuperDuke, and this thing just feels like a freaking lightweight little rocket ship. And another thing is, and I don't know how valid this is, let me know in the comments section what you guys think, but if you look at MotoGP you look at like any like super high-end race bike, they have a two-sided swing arm. They don't have a single-sided swing arm. Just because when you're making that much power and you're going through turns like that gnarly and stuff, it's like you want the bike like locked in, dude. You want that tire holding still. I think a two-sided swing arm is way better for like racing or high horsepower or whatever than a single. That's just my opinion. And that's one thing that I'm comparing, you know, like the RC8 to this bike. This bike's for street. It's got a single-sided swing arm. It looks really cool. And why they did that is it makes room for the exhaust on the right side there. You know, for that big old monster muffler for this 1290. Riding this bike up in the canyons, it reminds me how much easier it is to go fast on a sport bike like this. The crotch rocket hunched over position is so much more efficient, or whatever you proficient, whatever you want to say, as far as riding fast. As far as like coming into a turn, you know, and you're coming up to this turn and you're just like, duh, this bike, this position right here is perfect, dude. Like that, it just feels like you're so hooked up and like you're so down low. You know, it's like you're next to the bike. You're part of the bike. You're not like on the bike. It's different. You're like in the bike. It's completely different. But in addition to that, the power band of these two engines is totally different. You know, like that 1290 has just like monster torque. It has gnarly low end, and when you go like that, it's real like torquey, and it feels like it's gonna like try to wheelie. And this bike doesn't feel like that. This bike feels like the power band is a lot more like mid to like high end, you know, mid to top end power. And it definitely feels like this bike makes less torque and more horsepower, where the SuperDuke feels like it makes more torque and less horsepower. And it totally feels different. It is definitely a difference. The way the power comes on this thing, it doesn't try to wheelie. It just tries to put the power down and go forward. You know, it's definitely, like I made the comment on that other video where I was comparing the two bikes, and I made the comment about like, I wonder like if I took both of these bikes to the track, which bike do you think I would be faster on? I honestly wonder, like if I took both of them to the track, like next time I go to the track, say I take both of these bikes, which do you think I would be faster like on the track? You know, like actual lap times or whatever, if I'm just going hard on this bike or I'm going hard on the RC8. And I really, now that I've ridden this bike again and kind of like refreshed my memory, you know, like on how this bike actually feels, dude, I think this bike would be way, way faster on the track than that 1290, than that SuperDuke. I think that this RC8 is a full-on track bike, and this position is a full-on racing position. You know, it's like you don't see anyone in MotoGP riding a freaking upright. You know what I mean? Like that's just, obviously that position is faster for racing. It just is. So that's it. That's what I had to talk about there with just comparing these two bikes. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about all this info and all these opinions in this video. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace. Hey. Yo, what's up, what's up?